The banks buried these rules for 70 years. In 1955, one factory paycheck bought a house, a Chevy, and raised 5 kids, with savings left over. By the end of this video, you'll know all 25 forgotten money rules and exactly why they vanished. Rule number 1, the cash-only envelope system. Every Friday when Dad brought home his $68 weekly paycheck from the steel mill, Mom sat at the kitchen table with 10 labeled envelopes: rent, groceries, milkman, electric, church, savings, gas, doctor, clothing, and emergency. When an envelope was empty, spending stopped. No exceptions, no credit, no "I'll pay it next month." This single habit eliminated 90% of household debt in post-war America. Families knew, to the penny, exactly where every dollar went, because they could see it, touch it, count it. Rule number 2, the strict 25% housing rule. Your grandfather wouldn't even look at a house if the mortgage payment exceeded 1/4 of his take-home pay. Period. In 1953, the average new home cost $9,500, and the average factory worker earned $3,200 a year. That mortgage payment? Around $58 a month. Exactly 22% of his check. Today, Americans routinely spend 40, even 50% on housing and wonder why they're drowning. That 25% ceiling wasn't a guideline. It was a sacred line. Cross it, and you became the bank's servant for life. But Rule 3 is where the real magic happened: the GI Bill mortgage. After World War II, returning veterans could buy a home with 0 down payment, a 4% fixed rate, and a 30-year term backed by Uncle Sam. 16 million men used it. By 1955, half of all new homes in America were financed this way. A young veteran could literally walk into a bank, sign 3 papers, and own a $7,000 ranch house in the suburbs the same afternoon. No PMI, no points, no junk fees. It was the single greatest wealth transfer in American history. Rule 4, layaway, not credit. Before Visa and MasterCard hijacked the American wallet in the late 1960s, families bought big-ticket items through layaway. You walked into Sears, picked out a washing machine for $189, paid $10 down, and the store held it in the back room while you paid $5 a week. No interest, no debt. When the item was paid off, you took it home, owned, free, and clear. It taught patience, planning, and the deep satisfaction of buying something you'd actually earned. Layaway killed impulse buying before it was born. Rule 5, home-cooked meals every single day. In 1955, the average American family spent just 11% of their income on food, and almost none of it on restaurants. Mom cooked breakfast, packed lunches in metal pails, and put a hot dinner on the table at 5:30 sharp. A whole chicken cost 39 cents a pound. A dozen eggs, 28 cents. She stretched a single roast across 3 meals: Sunday dinner, Monday hash, Tuesday soup. Today, Americans spend 13% of income just eating out. That difference, invested over 30 years, is a paid-off house. Rule 6, repair first, never replace. When the toaster broke, Dad didn't toss it. He took it apart at the kitchen table, found the broken filament, and soldered it himself. Shoes went to the cobbler, watches to the watchmaker, radios to the repair shop on Main Street. Every neighborhood had a half-dozen small repair businesses, and throwing something away was considered shameful. A 1952 General Electric refrigerator was built to last 40 years, and most of them did. The throwaway economy hadn't been invented yet, and families saved thousands because of it. But rule number 7 is where things get really interesting: single-income financial planning. The entire 1950s economy was built around one earner. Dad worked, Mom managed the household, and that arrangement wasn't a luxury. It was deliberate financial strategy. With one income, taxes were lower, childcare costs were 0, a second car wasn't needed, lunches weren't bought, convenience foods weren't necessary. Economists at the time calculated that a second income only added about 30% more take-home money after expenses, and cost the family enormous time. So they chose time and built wealth slowly on purpose. Rule 8. Pay yourself first. Always 10%. Before the rent, before the groceries, before anything, Dad walked to the bank on Friday and deposited 10 cents of every dollar into a passbook savings account paying 3% interest. By 1960, the average American household had socked away the equivalent of 9 months of expenses. 9 months. Today, 60% of families can't cover a $400 emergency. That 10% rule, applied for 30 years, built the down payments for second homes, college funds, and the comfortable retirements your grandparents enjoyed. Rule 9. The Victory Garden never died. Even in suburban 1955, nearly every backyard had a vegetable plot. Tomatoes, green beans, zucchini, sweet corn, strawberries. Mom canned hundreds of jars every August. The basement shelves were lined with mason jars of peaches, pickles, and apple butter that fed the family all winter. A 20 by 20 garden produced roughly $300 worth of vegetables a year, about $1,500 in today's money. And the kids learned, with dirt under their fingernails, that food came from work, not from a drive-through window. Rule 10. Hand-me-downs were honor, not shame. The oldest child got new clothes from the Sears catalog. The second got the first child's outgrown clothes. The third got the second's. By the time the fifth kid came along, his pants had been worn by 4 brothers, and nobody felt embarrassed. Coats were patched, shoes were resold, dresses were let out, taken in, and dyed a different color for a new season. The average 1950s child cost parents about $25 a year in clothing. Today, nearly $1,000. That difference funded the family vacation. Rule 11. The milkman, the bread truck, and bulk buying. Fresh milk arrived in glass bottles on the porch 3 mornings a week and cost less than the supermarket. Bread came from the Bond bread truck on Tuesdays. Mom bought flour, sugar, and rice in 50-pound sacks from the feed store, not 5-pound bags from the grocery. Buying in bulk saved 40 to 60% on staples. The family freezer, when they finally got one in 1958, held half a cow purchased directly from a local farmer for 30 cents a pound. No middleman, no markup, no marketing. Rule 12. One good car kept forever. The family Chevy was purchased new in 1951 for $1,500, and Dad expected it to last 15 years. He changed the oil every 2,000 miles himself, rotated the tires every spring, and washed it every Saturday in the driveway. Cars in the 1950s were built to be repaired by ordinary men with ordinary tools. A second car was almost unheard of. Mom dropped Dad at the train station, used the car for errands, and picked him up at 6. One car, well-maintained, saved a family roughly $1,200 a year. But wait until you hear Rule 13, though, because it's the one that quietly built generational wealth. Whole life insurance started the day a baby was born. For about $3 a month, parents took out a $1,000 whole life policy on each child. By the time that child turned 21, the policy had a cash value of several $100s, enough for a wedding, a car, or a down payment. It also locked in lifetime insurability at child rates. Today, this strategy is dismissed by financial gurus. In 1955, it was how working-class families quietly handed their kids a head start. Rule 14. Never finance a depreciating asset. Dad would mortgage a house because houses appreciated. He would never, ever borrow money for a car, a refrigerator, or a vacation. If you couldn't pay cash for it, you didn't deserve it yet. This single rule prevented the debt spiral that destroys modern families. The average 1955 household carried less than $400 in consumer debt, almost all of it short-term store credit. Today, the average household carries over $100,000 in non-mortgage debt. That's the real difference between then and now. Not income, discipline. Rule 15. The Christmas Club account. Starting in January, Mom deposited $2 every single week into a special savings account at the bank that paid no interest but could not be touched until December. By the first week of December, she withdrew exactly $104, enough to buy presents, a tree, ham, and a few stocking stuffers for all 5 kids. No credit card hangover in January, no regret in February. Christmas Club accounts were offered by every bank in America until the 1970s when credit cards quietly killed them. They taught a generation to plan instead of panic. Rule 16. Walk, bike, or take the streetcar. In 1955, the average American walked or biked over a mile every day just running errands. Kids walked to school, even in snow. Dad took the streetcar to work for a nickel. Gasoline cost 23 cents a gallon, but families still treated driving as a special occasion expense. The result? Lower transportation costs, better health, and stronger neighborhood communities where you actually knew the people on your block. A typical 1950s family spent under 8% of income on transportation. Today, it's nearly 20%. Rule 17. One TV, one phone, one radio per household. The family gathered in the living room after dinner to watch Ed Sullivan together. Children fought over who got to answer the single black rotary phone in the hallway. Entertainment was shared, not isolated. A monthly phone bill ran about $4. A TV, purchased once in 1953, lasted 20 years. Compare that to today's average household. 4 streaming subscriptions, 6 smartphones, 3 tablets, easily $400 a month in technology and entertainment costs. That's nearly $5,000 a year. In 1955 dollars, that would have been a brand new Chevy every single year. Rule 18. Barter and trade with neighbors. Mr. Henderson next door was a plumber, so when the kitchen sink clogged, Dad called him over, and in exchange, Dad fixed Henderson's car the following Saturday. No money changed hands. The dentist down the street accepted home-baked pies for cleanings. The barber on Elm gave kids haircuts in exchange for fresh eggs from the chicken coop. This invisible economy of favors and trades saved each household roughly $500 a year, about $5,000 in today's money, and built the kind of trust between neighbors that money simply cannot buy. Rule 19. Vacations close to home. The 1955 family vacation was a one-week drive to a state park with a canvas tent, a Coleman stove, and a cooler full of sandwiches. Total cost? About $40. Disneyland didn't open until 1955, and even then, most families considered Florida or California vacations to be once-in-a-lifetime affairs. Camping, fishing, and visiting relatives were the standard. The average vacation budget consumed less than 2% of annual income. Today's families spend 8 to 10%, often financed on credit cards that take a full year to pay off. The memories, by every account, were just as sweet. Rule 20. Avoid keeping up with the Joneses. In 1955, conspicuous spending was considered tacky, not aspirational. Wealthy families drove modest cars and lived in modest homes. Showing off was for new money, and new money was suspect. The cultural pressure ran the other way. Thrift, modesty, and quiet competence were what earned respect from the neighbors and the pastor. This single cultural rule may have saved more money than all the others combined. It's also the rule most thoroughly destroyed by modern advertising, social media, and a consumer economy that requires your envy to function. Rule 21. The family ledger book. Every Sunday evening, Dad opened a hardbound ledger and recorded every penny earned and spent that week, by category, not roughly. Exactly. The Monday morning coffee, the Wednesday newspaper, the Saturday gasoline. He could tell you on any given day the family's exact net worth to the dollar. This ritual, about 30 minutes a week, created the financial awareness that modern apps promise but rarely deliver. The act of writing it by hand, in ink, burned the numbers into memory. You can't overspend what you've truly internalized. Rule 22. Teach kids to work by age 10. Every child in a 1950s household had real chores with real economic value. Boys mowed lawns for neighbors at 50 cents a yard. Girls babysat for a quarter an hour. Paper routes, lemonade stands, shoveling snow. Kids earned their own spending money by 6th grade. By high school, most teenagers had part-time jobs and bank accounts of their own. They didn't just learn financial literacy from a textbook, they learned it from sweat. That generation became the most financially disciplined adults in American history because they earned every dollar before they spent one. Rule 23. Shop the Sears catalog, not the mall. The Sears, Roebuck, and Montgomery Ward catalogs arrived twice a year and were treated like sacred texts. Mom circled items, compared prices, and ordered only what was absolutely needed. No impulse window shopping, No emotional purchases under fluorescent lights. The catalog forced patience. Items took 2 to 3 weeks to arrive. And that delay killed most unnecessary spending before it started. Studies later proved that a 72-hour waiting period eliminates 80% of impulse purchases. Mom didn't need a study. She had the Sears wish book and a pencil. Rule 24. Tithe and give first. Whether they attended a Baptist church in Alabama, a Catholic parish in Boston, or a synagogue in Brooklyn, working-class families gave away 10% of their income before they paid any other bill. It wasn't superstition. It was discipline. The act of writing that check first every single week taught the brain that money flowed through your hands, not into them. Studies of multi-generational wealth consistently show that families who gave generously also saved more, spent more wisely, and reported greater financial peace. Generosity, paradoxically, was the engine of personal prosperity. And finally, Rule 25, the one habit that protected families from every recession of the 20th century. The 6-month emergency fund, kept in cash at home, not in the bank, in a coffee can buried in the basement, or in a tin behind the flour jar. After living through the Depression, your grandparents trusted no institution completely. They kept 6 months of living expenses, usually around $800 in 1955 dollars, physically accessible. When the 1957 recession hit and Dad's mill cut hours, that coffee can paid the rent for 4 months. No panic, no debt, no begging, just quiet, disciplined preparation. That's the secret that built the American middle class, and the secret they stopped teaching after 1971. 25 forgotten rules. 1 single paycheck. A house, a car, and 5 kids, with savings in the coffee can. None of this required genius. It required discipline, community, and a culture that valued thrift over flash. If this video reminded you of how your parents or grandparents lived, or if you wish more Americans remembered these rules today, hit that subscribe button and join us. We're bringing back the forgotten wisdom of frugal America, one lost lesson at a time. Until next time, spend less, save more, and remember where we came from.